Hey everyone, it's Cassimus Lego, and welcome to another entry in my custom Lego Harry Potter minifigure series. And this time I have 5 brand new custom minifigures from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. These characters being Hogwarts Potions Master Professor Horace Slughorn, fan favorite Draco Malfoy in his black suit, the insane but loyal Death Eater Bellatrix Lestrange, the savage werewolf Fenrir Greyback, and finally, for the first time, the Hogwarts Headmaster Albus Dumbledore. So here we are in the 6th entry in the Harry Potter series, and I'm almost done with this project. I believe next year should be nothing but Deathly Hallows custom minifigures, but before then, let's go ahead and get a close-up look at these Year 6 custom LEGO minifigures. Let's begin with longtime Hogwarts Potions Master Professor Horace Slughorn. He is very significant to the events of Year 6, so obviously he is a perfect figure to start with. While I wish this minifigure could have a walrus-like mustache as he is described in the book, Jim Broadbent delivered his own memorable performance to the character. I initially planned to make the dress robes he wore at the Slug Club Christmas party. I thought it would be unique to the holiday season, but a lack of reference meant that I was going to make the more standard outfit, which included the plaid suit, this regal dark orange cape, and his graduation cap. This was the right choice overall because I think the minifigure turned out great, and it will be much more consistent with my future custom LEGO Harry Potter minifigures. So obviously, the most tedious part about painting Slughorn was the plaid suit design. It appears on the torso, the arms, the legs, and even the fabric jacket. Now I'm no stranger when it comes to painting plaid and pinstripe designs, but still, the process for this minifigure was just as time-consuming as ever. The 3D jacket is painted fabric, and I like the fold in the collars. There are also 3D pockets on the sides of the jacket. They have painted buttons and are outlined. On the torso itself, there is an additional fabric layer with more of the plaid design. I also painted the chain accessory that hangs out of his suit pockets, which the center itself is sculpted. The legs are pretty basic, but I do love how these particular painted lines turned out. In my opinion, the overlapping design looks very clean. The shoes are painted as well in a chestnut color paired with dark brown soles. The arms, though mostly obscured by the fabric cape, still look very consistent with the rest of the minifigure. His cape is a custom fabric overcape. I based the color mainly on a particular reference image, and it looks pretty nice, though maybe a bit too bright. I added the collars as well. They're made from my brown fabric and glued in place. Now let me talk about the head paired with the custom graduation cap hair combo. Like I said earlier, I would have loved to have painted the book-accurate mustache, but I do really like the head print from the official LEGO Slughorn minifigure based on the film-accurate Jim Broadbent portrayal, so I didn't have any issues using it for my own custom minifigure. Both expressions look really great, which leaves me with the graduation cap. To start, I obviously used the official LEGO cap element, and then I cut off the plastic tassel and sanded the top to clean away the excess of plastic that remained from it. Next, I took a standard LEGO Mutt Williams hair element and cut out the top half of the piece and glued it to the cap. This hairpiece I find is basically the best piece to start with because the plastic is very thin in the back, allowing it to be pretty simple to cut and manipulate. The cap is painted in dark brown, as I thought it looked more accurate to the film costume as opposed to black. Finally, I added the tassel as a 3D element made from a fabric floss material. Overall, I'm really happy with how this custom piece turned out. I like the fabric tassel, and the hat and hair combo on this minifigure especially was very successful. I can also give Slughorn the standard hairpiece LEGO themselves have decided to give him, though unfortunately I don't think it's totally appropriate for the character, but it works. I don't exactly know what hairpiece would be better as of now. Along with an alternate hairpiece, Slughorn has a few accessories. Of course, he has his own custom painted wand design. This one in particular was pretty weird to paint, but I love how it looks. I used a dark brown wand element as a base, and then just painted a series of completely random silver designs all around the piece. It kind of reminds me of giraffe skin. So far, it's the most uniquely painted wand design I've done. The other accessory is a standard LEGO element of a glass of the famous Harry Potter beverage, butterbeer. I didn't modify this element in any way, it's the perfect refreshment for a Christmas party. I think that's about it for this custom LEGO Horace Slughorn minifigure. I love this character in the book and in the film, and I'm incredibly happy with how he turned out. Alright, this character had a long time coming in custom LEGO minifigure form. Here is Draco Malfoy. I've made him in the formal suit worn during his most pivotal moment in the series. So this custom minifigure is pretty simple. It's basically just a black suit utilizing more of the fabric I started to use this year. It's fully 3D and wraps around the entire minifigure torso, leaving just a bit of the upper torso exposed where I've painted the shirt collars, and added a 3D tie made from E-tape. The fabric jacket has additional 3D painted fabric elements, including the collars and pockets. The more I try to combine using base fabrics and 3D painted details, the better I get at blending them together. I also sculpted some buttons towards the bottom of the jacket. Malfoy has black LEGO minifigure arms, and I simply painted some button detail, nothing crazy, just 3 buttons on each arm. I also slapped on some custom black glove tops to represent his shirt cuffs. The legs are also just black minifigure legs, and I painted a basic pair of shoes on each side of the leg pieces. For the head, I wanted to use the recent older Draco Malfoy head that debuted last year. The expressions on both sides of the head resemble Tom Felton way better than the older one. In fact, when I saw that LEGO was going to reuse that head for the minifigure included in the upcoming Malfoy Manor set, I was very annoyed. This one is so much better. The face is paired wonderfully thanks to this hairpiece. I just want to say, finding this minifigure hairpiece style in the tan color was much more challenging than I expected. The piece in this color, as far as I know, has only been used on one single officially released LEGO minifigure, the Bastian Schweinsteiger minifigure from the Deutscher Fußballbund collectible minifigure line, and I apologize if my pronunciation was off, but anyway, despite the hairpiece seemingly being available in large quantities around the world, I had multiple Bricklink sellers send me the incorrect color or send me an invoice claiming their listing in their store was in error. But thanks to one particular vendor, I was able to get a hold of this hairpiece very shortly before Christmas to shoot this video. It is the perfect hairpiece for this moment in the film, and it's a shame I had no interest in using the bright yellow variant because, in my opinion, it just looks ugly for LEGO Draco Malfoy minifigures. But if I had, it would have saved me a ton of trouble. Malfoy has a custom painted wand design, though it's very simple, just a black LEGO wand, and I repainted it in brown to match his wand design in the film. I also gave Malfoy a few swappable minifigure pieces for alternate display options. The first and my favorite is the left arm, which has the sleeves rolled up, revealing the dark mark. I used a dual black and light nougat minifigure arm and painted the design. As you can imagine, this was extremely challenging for me to paint. I tried my best to keep the design as accurate as possible at this scale, which meant leaving out some of the detail in the snake skin texture and especially on the snake head. However, I still think it turned out incredibly well. Actually, I think it should be more towards the inside of the forearm, but I painted it here to have it be more visible and also easier for me to paint. A detail that I really like is that I painted a miniature LEGO minifigure head to depict this skull. I also added a strip of E-tape to the edge of the black portion of the minifigure arm to resemble the rolled up sleeves. I can also swap out the torso for an open jacket variant of the suit. This was inspired by the Deathly Hallows Part 2, and I only made it because it was super easy to make. I replicated the torso design, the fabric jacket, and the 3D elements pretty much exactly on a new torso. When shown as this, you can see the entirety of the 3D tie and the belt buckle on the minifigure legs, which is obscured on the main version of the minifigure. Between these two, I prefer the Half-Blood Prince confrontation scene appearance, but it is nice to know that I don't have to make him again for the Deathly Hallows next year. But with all that taken care of, that was it for Draco Malfoy. Certainly a beloved character in the series, not one of my favorites, but hey, that's me. It's about time for some more of the villains in the Harry Potter series, and how about the chaotic pureblood witch, Bellatrix Lestrange? Despite being a fan of Helena Bonham Carter, I'm personally not a huge fan of Lestrange in the books and in films, so I wasn't all too excited to make her in LEGO. But I still devoted much of my free time this December making this minifigure, and oh boy was she time consuming. This costume in the film is very ragged and filthy, but the one crucial detail that I noticed was the amount of swirls covering pretty much every part of her clothing. Now, I don't think I went as overboard as I could have in replicating that, but I still spent hours of my time just painting a random series of swirls, 51 of them to be exact, and yeah, by the end I was completely fed up with them. Like the costume in the film, I painted these swirls on the torso, both sides of the arms, and even some on the waistcoat, which I managed to get around painting the base fabric with a pretty easy and obvious technique. I'll start there. So yes, Lestrange has a custom waistcoat made from my black fabric, and as I alluded to, I was able to paint the swirls pattern by painting a base layer of black to the general region I wanted to detail, and then I simply painted each swirl over that. This way, I could still make corrections or choose better locations to break up the patterns. This method was also used on the sides of the waistcoat for just the individual swirls that you see. It was a simple solution that I will definitely be incorporating on future custom minifigures. I also painted some shoe detail, though it's just barely visible beneath the fabric. Towards the top, I added her wand holster, or at least I think that's what it is. I used E-tape and painted some stitching detail. The sides of the torso were sanded down, as per usual on my female custom LEGO minifigures. The painting on the torso was pretty straightforward. There are more swirls on the upper right corner, some wrinkles, and the exposed skin complete with her necklace. The corset is 3D and made from E-tape, which is perfect for depicting leather-like material. I based my paintwork specifically on the official LEGO minifigure from 2020, right down to the exact number and placement of the stitches. I'm surprised on how well the stitches stand out. On the back of the torso, I continued the corset and even added a 3D fabric hood. By removing the hairpiece, you can get a better look at it. The arms were by far the most annoying parts to paint, especially each and every one of those swirls. I also had to paint the stitching with the exposed shoulders. So believe it or not, I actually started with light nougat arms, just to get that clean base fleshed layer, and then I painted all of the black around them. It was significantly easier than painting the stitching over flesh paint. The painted swirls here follow no clear pattern. Both arms probably feature the most random designs I came up with. By moving the arms upward, it reveals the painted stitching in the inside of the forearms. Besides the swirls, this was the most tedious part of painting the arms, as I had to ensure that the crossing lines had to be equally sized and not placed incorrectly. I think they came out really nice, and to top them off, I painted a series of eyelets on the insides of both arms. For the head, I went with the 2020 minifigure from the collectible LEGO Harry Potter minifigures Series 2. It was the easiest choice for me, as I really like both expressions of the head and their resemblance to Carter. I think they give off a hollowed look perfect for Lestrange. Like the rest of the minifigure, the hairpiece was significantly modified. There was a lot of paintwork that went into this piece to make it look as grimy as it appears. First, I started by painting over the minifigure hair element in dark brown. Then I added the lighter color to the side and attempted to create a subtle fade between them. Finally, I finished it off by applying a thick black wash over the entire piece, giving it the absolutely filthy look appropriate for the character. I'm really pleased with the final result. It looks so great. Bellatrix's accessory is her pointed wand, which I did my best to recreate using a cut piece from a toothpick. I even painted some detail toward the bottom to match her film prop, though much like the swirls, it's a completely random design. The custom wand is pretty good, but I do have to be careful when fiddling with it. And that's about it for this custom LEGO Bellatrix Lestrange minifigure. As a matter of fact, I might call her my favorite minifigure in the project, which is pretty ironic considering how I feel about the character. Continuing with the villains, here is the infamous werewolf bounty hunter, Fenrir Greyback. Now, unlike Bellatrix, I was actually looking forward to making this minifigure because I had the perfect hairpiece in mind for him, and I also just knew he would be significantly easier for me to make. Greyback has another one of those black fabric trench coats, and as I said during Bellatrix's segment, I used the same painting method and added some buttons. The other details look great as well. I especially like the 3D straps that I made and the oversized lapels. Turning the minifigure around, there is absolutely nothing on the back. To be honest, I didn't really notice any distinct details in my reference images, so I just left it blank. Underneath the jacket is another layer of fabric depicting his shirt, and obviously I made sure to expose his giant hairy chest. I'm really fond of how I approached this. I started with a LEGO Bane minifigure torso from 2012 because I knew I wanted a light nougat chest print and realized that the additional scars and markings would actually look pretty accurate. I did paint a lot of detail over it, including the giant scar and every single one of those hair strands, which I tried to match as close as I could to the facial print. The arms are standard LEGO minifigure arms in black, and the same can be said about the legs, although I did sculpt and paint the belt buckle, and I painted some boot detail. They feature some 3D bootstraps made from E-tape, and I even painted some small buckles. I used the recent Fenrir Greyback headprint from the official LEGO minifigure that released in 2020. I think this print is an upgrade from the original 2010 minifigure, and all I did was extend the sideburn design by painting some additional facial hair. This hairpiece was the reason why I was excited to make this minifigure. I had my eye on the recent Obi-Wan LEGO minifigure hair from 2022, because I thought this mullet style in particular looked perfect for Greyback as he appears in this film, so I painted it dark brown, and after adding a black wash to add some dimension, I'm extremely pleased with how it looks. This segment was pretty quick, but let's finish it off by taking a look at Greyback's custom painted wand. It's really nothing unique, just a few silver rings around the brown base, but it is accurate. And with that, I mean, that's it. There's really nothing else to add, besides I'm glad I had the chance to make the most savage werewolf in the Harry Potter series. Let's finish off by looking at the Hogwarts headmaster, Professor Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore. This is my first ever attempt at making this iconic wizard, and it will also likely be my last. Of course, this custom LEGO minifigure depicts the late Sir Michael Gambon Dumbledore as integral to this film, and I don't think I'll ever make the late Sir Richard Harris version myself, because the official minifigure that LEGO put out in the collectible LEGO Harry Potter minifigures line is so incredibly detailed that it's one of my favorite minifigures in my collection. Anyway, back to this minifigure. There could have been a lot of variety with this character, but I chose to keep it very simple to just make the fabric robes, repaint the beard and hair in a more accurate cream color, and add some extra details here and there. Dumbledore has some light gray fabric robes, once again incorporating a brand new base fabric for the minifigure. I painted some silver highlights to the edges as accurate to the film costume, and also painted the gold waist string, which extends around the entire minifigure. Before I continue with the upper half of the torso, I do want to point out that I did paint some shoe detail, but it's basically hidden by the additional piece of fabric. I knew without the 3D lapels, the robes would have been very bland, so I had to make sure to paint something eye-catching on them. So I went with some rows of silver lines, which I based off of what I perceived from my references, and I really love how they turned out. I'll say it now, the robes are so very simple, but I love how they look regardless, and these lapels with the silver details really help to make it stand out. Also, I did paint the torso underneath, and by removing the head connected to the beard, I can show off the rest of the lapels and the painted torso. With the head removed, this is a good time to also show the back of the minifigure. The golden waist string continues, but is covered by the 3D fabric hood, which itself gets covered by the hairpiece, leaving just a peek of it showing through. I was concerned with how the light bluish gray LEGO minifigure arms would match the hue of the fabric, and thankfully after experimenting with several other colors, the final result matches very closely, saving me all of the headache from painting the arms myself. I kept it mostly blank aside from the minimal detail that I painted on both arms. Additionally, I gave Dumbledore some custom glove tops with some of its own detail, once again based on the film costume wrists. And then he's topped off with some light nougat LEGO minifigure hands, though I can swap out dark bluish gray hands to represent the cursed effects from wearing Marvolo Gaunt's ring. Alright, so it's time to talk about the beard. So I wasn't sure if the final minifigure would utilize the uniquely molded beard LEGO produced for their collectible Gambon Dumbledore minifigure. I like it a lot, but I thought it might have been possible to make it some other way, maybe with some cotton or something. But then I realized I was feeling a bit too lazy, or more likely, I was too intimidated to try it, so I went ahead with the molded beard piece after all. I did modify it pretty heavily though, including removing the neck attachment, gluing it directly to the minifigure head, painting it in a more film-accurate cream color, and finally adding some extra sculpting to close off the sides and connect it to the hairpiece. The mouth was inspired by my previous custom LEGO Gandalf the Grey and Saruman the White minifigures. You know, while working on it, I remembered that I initially wanted to make a Dumbledore custom minifigure at the start of 2021, and it took me nearly 4 years to finally get around to it. Yet after all this time, I painted the mouth exactly the same way. It's almost like no time has passed at all. Anyway, I struggled with head choices for a bit, but I finally settled for the official LEGO minifigure head print, also from the collectible minifigure. While Dumbledore wouldn't be complete without his half-moon spectacles, I do realize that he doesn't really wear them in this film, so I suppose it's not entirely appropriate for this custom LEGO minifigure, but I wanted to use it anyway just for the convenience. Since I used the beard mold, there was no reason not to also use the hair and cap combo mold. The cap has a new paint design that wraps around the entire piece. It was a bit of a slog, but definitely not as annoying to paint as the swirls on Bellatrix. Similar to Slughorn's graduation cap, I made a custom tassel for Dumbledore's cap as well, made from a yellowish string floss material. And finally, the hair was painted to match the beard. Since Dumbledore takes off his hat when he and Harry venture into the caves, I can swap out the hairpiece, and the beard extensions are sculpted in such a way to accommodate both of the hairpieces seamlessly. Speaking of, let's take a look at the accessories. First up is one of the 3 pieces of the Deathly Hallows itself, the Elder Wand. I put a lot of effort into building up the shape of this legendary weapon. I had to cut the minifigure element in multiple pieces, and then by carefully attaching them to the sculpted centers, I was able to approximate the general design, and then the rest of the work was a paint job, which aside from the detail towards the bottom was very straightforward. I was wondering how I would eventually make the Elder Wand, and in my opinion, it turned out okay. It's very LEGO minifigure-like, which is exactly what I was aiming for, but I will definitely be upgrading this piece for the Deathly Hallows custom minifigures next year. And with that was it for this LEGO Professor Dumbledore custom minifigure, and the rest of the minifigures I've made for the Half-Blood Prince project. Thank you very much for watching, and now we'll go ahead and conclude this custom LEGO minifigure review video. Alright, that'll be it. Thank you very much for checking out these custom LEGO Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince custom minifigures. I hope you've enjoyed this Castmas LEGO Christmas special, if you will, because I certainly had fun picking out the music for this review video. If you have any questions, thoughts, or critiques, feel free to send them my way by writing a comment down below and I'll get back to you. Also, if you're interested, be sure to follow my social media platforms, where I post updates, behind-the-scenes looks at future projects, and individual photos of all of my recent minifigures. Links to my social media will be down below. As always, thanks again for watching. I hope you have a Merry Christmas, and I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.